September 12, 1943. Vella La Vella, Solomon Islands. Major Greg Boyington stood in front of 27 pilots at a makeshift airstrip in the South Pacific. These were the men the Marine Corps didn't want. Washouts from other squadrons, troublemakers, misfits who'd been passed over for command or transferred for disciplinary problems. Boyington himself was no prize, 31 years old, ancient by fighter pilot standards, a heavy drinker with a bad attitude. He'd been kicked out of the Flying Tigers in China for fighting with his commander. He'd been in debt, divorced, and considered unreliable. But he could fly, and he could fight. The Marine Corps gave Boyington these reject pilots and told him to form a squadron. No expectations, no support. Just take these problem children and try not to embarrass the Corps. Boyington looked at his new command and grinned. He told them they were the Black Sheep. Nobody wanted them. Nobody believed in them. So they had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Over the next 84 days, VMF 214 would become legendary. They would shoot down over 200 Japanese aircraft, produce multiple aces, and prove that sometimes the misfits and troublemakers make the best warriors. This is the story of the Black Sheep Squadron. The pilots of VMF 214 came from everywhere. Some had been grounded for disciplinary issues. Others had personality conflicts with their previous commanders. A few were simply considered too aggressive or too reckless. One pilot, Chris McGee, had been transferred 3 times for insubordination. Another, Bob McClurg, was known for getting into fistfights with superior officers. John Bolt was brilliant in the cockpit, but terrible at following orders on the ground. These were not the clean-cut, by-the-book Marine pilots you'd see in recruitment posters. These were hard-drinking, rule-breaking brawlers who happened to be exceptional at killing enemy aircraft. Boyington understood them because he was one of them. He didn't care about military protocol or spit and polish. He cared about results. He told his pilots, fly aggressive, shoot straight, and bring each other home. Everything else was negotiable. The Black Sheep flew F4U Corsairs, powerful fighters with bent wings and massive engines. The Corsair was fast, heavily armed, and could take punishment. It was also difficult to fly and had killed numerous pilots during training. The Navy initially rejected it for carrier operations. But in the hands of skilled pilots like the Black Sheep, the Corsair was devastating. They flew it low and fast, used its speed to catch Japanese Zeros, used its firepower to blow them apart. Their first combat mission came on September 16th. They escorted bombers to Balale Island. Japanese Zeros intercepted. Within minutes, the Black Sheep had shot down 11 enemy fighters without losing a single Corsair. Boyington radioed back to base. "This is Black Sheep leader, Splash 11, returning to base." The other Marine squadrons couldn't believe it. 11 kills on their first mission? These misfits? Impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was just the beginning. The Black Sheep flew mission after mission. Bomber escort, fighter sweeps, ground attack. They were in the air constantly, sometimes twice a day. The tempo was brutal. Pilots flew exhausted, flew hungover, flew with injuries. But they kept racking up kills. Boyington led from the front. He was the oldest pilot in the squadron, but flew the most dangerous missions. He'd dive into formations of Japanese fighters, guns blazing, daring them to follow. His personal score climbed rapidly, 5 kills, 10 kills, 15 kills. The rest of the squadron followed his example. Chris McGee became an ace. Bob McClurg got 6 kills. John Bolt shot down 8 Japanese planes. The Black Sheep were becoming the highest-scoring squadron in the Marine Corps. Their tactics were unorthodox. They ignored standard doctrine. Instead of maintaining tight formations, they fought loose and aggressive. They used the Corsairs' superior speed and firepower to hit hard and fast. Japanese pilots learned to fear the bent wing fighters with the skull and crossbones markings. When Black Sheep Corsairs appeared, enemy formations scattered. But the price was high. The Black Sheep lost pilots. Bob Ewing was shot down and killed over Rabaul. Virgil Ray ditched in the ocean and was never found. Others were wounded, patched up, and sent back into combat. Boyington himself was shot down twice and rescued both times. He kept flying. His kill count reached 20, then 22, then 26. He was chasing the record of Eddie Rickenbacker, America's top ace from World War I, who had 26 confirmed kills. On January 3, 1944, Boyington led a mission over Rabaul. It was supposed to be his last before rotating home. He shot down 3 Japanese planes, tying Rickenbacker's record. Then a Zero got on his tail and shot him down. Boyington bailed out over the ocean. A Japanese submarine rescued him. He spent the rest of the war in a prisoner of war camp. The Black Sheep thought he was dead. Without Boyington, the Black Sheep continued fighting. Major Stan Bailey took command. The squadron kept flying combat missions until they rotated back to the States in January 1944. In 84 days of combat, VMF 214 had destroyed over 200 enemy aircraft. They produced 9 aces. They'd flown some of the most dangerous missions in the Pacific Theater. And they'd done it all as a squadron of misfits and rejects. When the war ended, Boyington was released from the POW camp. He'd survived 20 months of captivity. He came home to a hero's welcome and received the Medal of Honor for his combat record. His final score was 28 confirmed kills, making him the top Marine Corps ace of the war. The other Black Sheep went home too. Some stayed in the Marine Corps, others returned to civilian life. But they all remembered those 84 days when they'd been the best fighter squadron in the Pacific. After the war, Boyington wrote a book called Black Sheep. It became a bestseller. In the 1970s, it was adapted into a television series that made the Black Sheep Squadron famous to a new generation. But the real story was simpler than Hollywood. The Black Sheep were men that nobody wanted. Pilots considered too troublesome, too aggressive, too undisciplined. They broke rules, ignored regulations, and drove their commanders crazy. But when they climbed into their Corsairs and faced the enemy, they were unstoppable. They flew with skill, courage, and absolute determination. They protected bomber crews. They shot down enemy fighters. They completed every mission assigned to them. The Marine Corps called them misfits and drunks. The Japanese called them deadly. And in 84 days of combat over the South Pacific, the Black Sheep Squadron proved that sometimes the troublemakers and rebels make the best warriors. You just have to give them a chance to fight.